kept coming and kept coming. Now I'm from the South, and they don't do that in the South.
All right, I'm Chris.
And I'm Stephanie, and welcome to our next video.
So as you all know, I spent 20 years in the U.S. Army. Now, if you know anything about the Army, anytime you want to go somewhere, you have to put in a request and have to be approved by your supervisor, then sign off by their supervisor, then approved by their supervisor, then held by your peers, and then finally you get approval to go on your trip. So we're still learning how to navigate this freedom of being able to go anywhere we want to go, whenever we want to go there. And as you know, with great opportunity comes great responsibility. So we appreciate you all coming along for this journey and watching us learn how to navigate these new privileges and these new opportunities.
And would you like a park map and a newsletter today? For the HO, drive 6 miles down the road. That will take you to the parking lot, and there's a visitor center there.
Okay.
And then there's really just one trailhead. It gives you all the information there on the sign.
Thank you so much.
Okay, today we are visiting the HOH River Rainforest, not to be confused with HOE, but it's HOH.
I ain't gonna lie. When we got there and she said the name of the park, I was like, I didn't know it was that kind of party.
Hey, don't even get started.
Hey,
this is a G-rated channel for our G-rated audience.
She said it, not me.
So anyway, somebody was, one of my coworkers was telling me about the HOH River Rainforest. And they're like, what are you doing this summer? And I'm like, I don't know. We're trying to decide what we want to do. And they say, you must go to the HOH River Rainforest. So I was like, hold on, let me write that down. And I spelled it H-O-E.
Yeah, you know, I didn't pay any attention to it. This was one of those trips where I got to sit back and let Stephanie do all the planning, which is kind of a role reversal for us because usually I'm the planner. I like to get in there and I like to make sure everything is to a T so we know exactly where we're going and where we're going and how we're going when we get there.
Well, it's a lot of fun to just plan the trip without you knowing about it.
That is true.
Some cool facts about the HOH River Rainforest. Did you know it is one of the largest temperate rainforests in the United States? And I had to look that up, temperate. All that means is it gets a lot of rain, which was surprising because it wasn't as wet as I thought it was going to be. What's your idea of a rainforest? Some wet and muddy and...
Yeah, I was thinking what you see on National Geographic. Now, I will say, when we got out to some of the locations on there, I can see what they were saying. The moss was beautiful, and I had never seen terrain and land features like that. So it definitely lived up to expectations.
Now, if you want to find the HOH River Rainforest, you want to go to the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State. So we had to catch a ferry to get over there to it, and it is absolutely beautiful. Krishan, here's a quiz question for you. How many miles do you think the HOH River Rainforest is?
I have no clue. All I know is that where we were staying, which was close by the rainforest, and where we ended up going to see the moss was an hour drive. So that being said, I gotta think that it's pretty big.
So 24 miles. That's pretty good, isn't it?
I don't think it's 24 miles. It has to be longer than that because we drove for a whole hour just trying to get to that other site, right?
Well, that is correct, but it's in a secluded part of the Olympic Peninsula. So it's very difficult to get to.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying the rainforest is 22 miles, but the Olympic Peninsula and all it has to offer is much bigger. Okay, I got you now.
So I really enjoyed this particular trip just because it was something different than we've done in the past. I think we've done a lot of climbing and hiking and different places on different mountains and things like this. But this rainforest was absolutely beautiful, was it not?
Oh, yes, it was.
It was gorgeous. Very, very lovely. So, and you took pictures here.
Absolutely. It was a photographer's dream because this time of year, you know, everything is the same color, just a different shade of green. However, being in this part of the country, there was a lot of things that you can look at. It was different textures and just different kind of plants that you don't see on a day-to-day basis. As you can see here, the ferns are beautiful and the greens were popping with a little bit of red undertones. And it was unspoiled nature. So every corner you got to go around, you saw something new, which was really like smorgasbords of treats for a photographer.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you just being an observer, because I didn't take pictures on this trip. I just videoed, and it was just absolutely wonderful. The people were just so nice, and everybody we talked to were so friendly, and they were showing us pictures on their cell phones, and they were like really excited, and they were asking Krishan, what pictures did he get, and everybody was having such a good time, and the energy was really, really high. I will tell you what really struck me was the ferns. There were ferns everywhere. And they were huge ferns, and it was beautiful. And coming up, I don't want to be a spoiler, I want to have to do a spoiler alert, but we've got a beautiful tree that was turned over or upturned, and I'm assuming that is nature's way of, like, the roots degrade over time, and that's nature's way of actually absorbing plant matter back into the soil for the health of the ecosystem.
It was pretty interesting. I think one of the we got to one spot out there, and there was a tree that had fallen down, but this is not the one you're talking about. It was the other one. It was that long tree that had fallen down, and other trees had used it as like a nutrient base.
Oh yes, we have
to
that.
grow up, and you saw this
here.
huge tree that was probably hundreds of years old, and then there were other trees, huge trees growing on it. They were like saddling this other tree, and they were hundreds of years old. And it just was a great illustration of the cycle of life and how beautiful nature truly is.
And I believe that trees do that quite often. They use the fallen log for nutrients and for like a nursery, which is very interesting. I want to say we were up at Glacier National Park and we saw something else, something very similar, which was very interesting. You'll see that coming up in a future video. But this tree was straddling a rock. And I don't know where you get nutrients from a
I do
rock.
remember that. Yeah.
Very interesting.
But it just goes to show that nature will find a way.
Yes, that is very true. Now, we didn't see any animals on this trip, but we have seen some animals in the past.
I will tell you, that is not the norm for us.
No, it's not.
I mean,
when we first moved to Washington State, we were walking, I don't know, it was a part of the Centennial Trail, I believe, in Cheney, Washington. And it was me, Krishan, and Kaya, and we were walking on the trail. And just out of the corner of my eye, I saw something move. And I looked up, and lo and behold, the biggest stag I had ever seen. It was huge, like massive. And so, like, really quickly, I hit Krishan on the shoulder. I was like, hey, look, because I didn't want to, like, disturb him or anything. And everybody got a chance to see him, and then he scurried off. But just beautiful.
But that's the story of our life. I'm not saying I'm one of God's favorites, but I can tell you I'm on the short list. Because just yesterday, I was out in nature. I was out at, I think it was a bird sanctuary. And I'm just walking in La La Land, looking around, keeping my head on the swivel for eagles and all kind of different other birds, because I'm trying to try out my new lens. And I looked down, and I am not exaggerating when I say there was a bull snake. No joke. At least probably like 2 inches from my left foot.
Goodness.
Now, I'm not trying to say that I'm afraid of snakes, but they are not my favorite species on earth.
Okay.
I jumped so high. I'm glad no one else was around to get that on video, because, that would be embarrassing. But it was a bull snake that was just laying across the trail. And I thought the bull snake was dead.
Oh, because it wasn't moving,
Yeah, it
right?
wasn't moving. He was just laying across the trail.
Okay.
So I scurried out of the way. Maybe got about 15, 20 feet or yards, whichever one you want to do. I'm going to say feet, but it may actually have been yards.
Oh.
But I went back. It's like, oh, that'll make a great picture. And no, it was not dead. It had actually scurried across. And I'm like, because I thought, if it was still alive, it would make for a great picture. But it got out of there. It was just as afraid of me as I was of it. So didn't get a great picture. But this right here is the tree I was talking about.
This is the tree.
Where they were growing out of the other tree. But
so cool.
This is the story of our life, but we see so much wilderness. I remember when we were down at the other bird sanctuary, I think it's just east of here.
Okay.
And Stephanie and I were walking around, we were doing our own thing, and I see out of the corner of my eye something black in the bushes.
Uh-oh.
Now, I thought it was a rug. So I didn't think...
I know what you're talking about. That's Turnbull. We're at Turnbull National Park, yeah.
So I didn't think anything of it. So I'm just going about my business.
And then you didn't
pictures.
say anything to me at first.
I thought it was a rug.
But
I didn't want to ruin the vibe. So I'm walking down, taking pictures of waterfowl, and the guy's like, hey, great camera. Did you get pictures of the moose? And I'm like, what moose? Like the moose right around the bend.
The carpet.
I'm like, oh, I thought that was a rug.
It's ridiculous.
So I scurry around the corner real fast, hoping that the moose is still there. And we got some great shots of a moose just sitting there
Yeah, he was
in the
laying
bush,
down,
just
chilling.
enjoying his day.
Yeah.
And then we actually opened our eyes and started to scan the terrain. And we realized there was another moose just right behind it.
Right,
You know, and
yeah.
it just goes to show that sometimes, you know, if you just open your eyes a little wider, the things that you can see out in nature.
And I just want to bring, I cannot remember what park we were at this summer. And Kershawn was down at the waterfall. He was taking photos. And I was like, okay, well, I had already done what I wanted to do. And so I came back up to the picnic table area where he had all the camera equipment set out. And he had a chair up there. So I sat down on the chair. I pulled out my book and I started reading. And I saw something out of the corner of my eye, literally moving toward me. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I look up from my book. And it was the biggest, it looked like a chipmunk / groundhog.
yeah.
So I don't know what it was, but he kept coming and kept coming. Now I'm from the South, and they don't do that in the South. If you move once, they scurry off, but I'm assuming somebody was feeding him. So he's coming up closer, closer. And he got so close, I started screaming for Krishan. I was like, Krishan. And he's just looking at me. I'm like, hurry, this way, you know, and I want him to scare off the thing. And he comes up there and starts taking pictures of it. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Now, I have always said that Stephanie knows no strangers. And this summer, it is starting to extend over to animals. It was that groundhog / squirrel thing.
Right up to me.
And what was the other thing? It was the chipmunks we saw.
What, the one that ran up your leg?
Oh, yeah, that was a bit extra.
That was a little close.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just walking down
Talking
the
about
street.
Glacier, we was at Glacier.
Yeah.
We was
Minding
running
my
all over
own
my feet.
business. And this thing runs up my leg like I'm a big tree.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, this is different. But
Yeah.
again, I guess either Stephanie knows no strangers or somebody's been feeding these things.
What are we saying? That extends over in the animals,
Exactly.
Krishan?
She can speak. It's like Dr. Doolittle.
The animal whisperer. He's so silly. So real quick, what was one of your most favorite things about shooting photos out here at the HOH River Rainforest?
I think it was the slow build of it. Remember when we first got into the park, we were like, I don't think this is going to be what it's going to, what they said it was going to be.
I wasn't really sure.
But then when we went across the bend and we actually started to slow down and observe the situation, there was amazing pictures to be had. I, for a long time, have been trying to work on making the ordinary look extraordinary. And I'm not saying I did that here because there were some extraordinary locations, but I think that these pictures can truly illustrate that I'm getting a lot better at that.
I think so. I'm just going to tell you, well, thank you so much for listening and tuning in to us today. And don't forget to do something nice for someone today, and you can do it.
And don't forget, we're just ordinary people trying to do extraordinary things.
You know it.